Well, hello, hello. Welcome. It's a beautiful Friday night. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I've got a great guest tonight. If you're here, then you probably know who he is. But if you're here, do me a huge favor and please say hi so that we know that you're here. Let us know who you are and also let us know where you're from. We're always more than happy to find out who's watching us tonight. And you know the drill with my live sessions. This is long from Mongoose. Live sessions are very simple. You get to interact. This is for you. You get to meet my special guest tonight, and you get to ask him whatever question you want. As always, priority to people who actually are willing to come on camera and ask him live in person. But if you're here, do take a moment to help me out, this channel out. Please like and share. If you're here and watching, especially my special guest, take one moment, and this should be on your social media, Facebook or YouTube pages, and just take one moment and do share this page so that we can help it grow tonight. Subscribe, of course, to the Mongoose page, and don't forget to smash and hit that notification button. My guest tonight is none other than the very, very talented Shashee, or Shashee Yang from Minnesota. And he has graced me with his presence. Tonight, he's actually finished with school and he's here and he wants to just interact and get to know you. We're specifically here watching his videos that I've recorded at Winter Jam 2021 in Fresno Rainbow Ballroom. My understanding is that was his first live performance in California. Saying, hey, Sang, thanks for joining us tonight. And he says, hi, Long. And hey, what's up, Sang? Always good to see you. So I'm going to actually have the guest pseudo introduce himself. He did such a great job. If you don't know already, my guest tonight is Shashee Yang from Minnesota. And he's actually got a really, really cool Facebook page. The name of the page is Simply Shashee, and you can find it at Simply Shashee on Facebook. And on his Facebook, he made a really nice post. And without me having to say much about him, I think it's better if we just read what he's told us about himself. And I'm just gonna be be lazy and just read exactly what he puts on here. He's a very, very dynamic, very, very educated young man, relatively. He says, my name is Shashee Yang. I guess I could be considered the brains and visionary of this operation, despite having very little brains and visions. Trust me, he's got a huge brain and he's got a very beautiful vision. I am 25 years old, Hmong American, a saxophonist / musician, scholar, and mental health advocate. Currently, I am a second-year doctoral student of clinical psychology. My future endeavor is to become a clinical psychologist and help understand and help underserved, marginalized, and diverse populations understand and heal from their mental illnesses and trauma. Additionally, I want to pursue music more seriously and promote music as a form of positive self-expression and healing. I plan to post original music covers, stories from my musical journey, professional journey, and more. I also aim to engage and interact more with fans and let you all know who I am, what I stand for, and what I am passionate about. Some fun facts about Shashee: his hobbies: playing soccer and volleyball, exploring new places, casual gaming, and reading. Favorite foods: pizza, sushi, ramen, pho, and la. Favorite movies: Rush Hour, Spider-Man No Way Home, and 21 Jump Street. Thanks for being part of this musical journey with Shashee. I appreciate every one of you. Welcome to Simply Shashee. So if you have not already, take a moment and follow his Facebook page, again, at Simply Shashee. Shangzu Ya says hi. Okay, she said okay, yes. Without further ado, let us welcome Shashee. Shashee, how are you tonight?
I'm doing quite well. Thanks for the warm welcome and thanks for having me on Mongoose.
Yes, it's a pleasure having you here. You're sitting there with your beautiful saxophone. We
Yes.
hope to learn a lot from you. So if you're joining us tonight, Shashee Yang from Minnesota, Twin Cities, and you're at school right now.
Yeah, I'm still at school. Like a Friday night for a grad student, like at school, it's probably like the most relaxing because everyone goes home. You get all the space to yourself, quiet time, and I could just play saxophone or work on my research.
Nice, nice. Where are you working on your doctorate?
So right now, you explained it pretty well actually. So I'm a second year doctoral student of clinical
Hmm.
psychology,
Hmm.
um, which I'm doing the PsyD route, and PsyD route is more, I'm learning to be, a practitioner rather than research, but they still have me do research anyways. So right now, I'm actually um, also practicing. So I'm practicing like psychological evals, psychological evaluations, and diagnosis under like another psychologist. So I do that on a daily basis, and then school too.
Nice, nice. So if people wanted to talk about you're a grad student or a doctorate student right now?
Doctorate student.
Doctorate student. Okay, so if someone said, "Hey, I want to know about your dissertation," you could kind of tease it out a little bit for us if
Oh,
someone was
of
inquiring.
course. I do talk about it a lot because my professors have me talk. They made me like learn how to say it so well that essentially if I were to see like any grant donors in an elevator, I would be able to give them an elevator pitch about my dissertation.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Okay, let's see here. So, Jeremy Lee says hi. What's up, guys? It's a pleasure. So, so
Hello.
t- tonight it's going to be super intimate. I think Shashi, I think you're one of the most interesting guys. Very diverse, got a very wide array of experiences and background. And of course, we're here obviously to watch your performance videos from Winter Jam.
Yes.
What was your what's your impression of that event?
So earlier you said it was my first live performance in California. That's actually my second.
Second. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but anyways, my overall impression, it was really well put together. The crowd was awesome. I loved it. I was really nervous, of course, because we're the Ninja Chuan Dombe na yo.
I
I
couldn't
get the
tell.
opportunity. I get the opportunity to play with all those big stars like David and Channing, Zongpa, Doki, and Treasure.
Yeah.
So it was really a humbling experience to get to share the stage with those awesome individuals.
Yeah, all those guys are super professional, but they're all really down to earth too. Really nice guys, and I've interviewed most of them actually on here. So they're all really nice guys, really open, and so we're gonna do this thing. Um, um, I got these little icebreaker cards. I've done it a couple times. I've never actually done a lot of them, like the whole set, but I'm gonna actually experiment with you because you're a doctorate student. So I'm gonna let you choose your fate. Pick a color, Shashi.
Uh, let's do so self-awareness, black, right? So
Black.
self-awareness. Yeah.
So let's choose black here.
I would
If I
like
can
to think I'm
find
self-aware.
if I can find black. Oh, black and gray look almost the same. Hmm. Let's go this here. Okay, so I'll let you say when, and then we'll pick a pick. And then we'll pick a. Well, I'll let you pick the question. Say when.
Stop.
Okay. All right. I didn't choose this question. Here you go.
So where do you need to think bigger?
Yeah.
Hmm. I think everywhere, but essentially, I haven't been putting a lot of time into music really. And I would like to just think bigger. That's why I started Simply Shashi. Simply Shashi is actually a project I started in 2018, but I kind of just stopped working at it because I got busy
Yeah.
with a lot of things, school specifically. But now that I got a better grasp of what I want to do,
Yeah.
I really want to start, um, putting my stuff out there because
Yeah.
I do feel like there are a lot of instrumentalists out there, Hmong
Yeah,
instrumentalists, people who play the sax, people who play the flute, people who play like Lucy Sao, or people who just play like instruments, right? This just don't want to like law perform on the big stage because it's not really promoted as much. So I
yeah,
think as something I want to do for the future is to kind of shed light on instrumentalists.
yeah, yeah,
So that's why I do the things I do musically because I really want to shed light on some awesome musicians, such as top of my head, Hao Sing Band. They're all amazing and they're still young and they still have lots of potential.
yeah. They're super talented. I mean, you imagine like playing one instrument is hard enough to get good at it, but I think they each play at least two or three. So
Yeah, right.
let's
And
see
they're
here.
also like high school, and they're
Yeah.
just only getting better.
So let's talk about you in high school because it may have been your live session where I heard you talk about it, or you may have written something somewhere, but you actually started playing a lot younger, but then you stopped, from my understanding, and then you started playing again. Can you tell us about that a little bit more?
Yeah,
Why'd you stop, and why did you start again?
for sure. So I come from a really musical background actually. It's like
Mhm.
my dad was a musician in the '90s. My uncle was actually Su Ya, the singer of Ijonzi, if you know. And then my Uncle B Tall from Sounders too, is also 听过他. Yeah, I was
How is B related to you?
so 只是 through Nchadashia, or not through blood, but um, essentially he's my dad's best friend. Nikili Wokutu
Oh,
unofficial uncle get huh? Or official, he's my
okay,
official uncle get huh?
okay, nice.
Um, but just going back to your question, yes, I started when I was in sixth grade, so when I was 10 years old. Um,
Why
naturally,
saxophone at that age?
I don't know, cause if you're gonna be in band class, why not the saxophone? Usually,
Yeah.
I just did what my dad said. And then to be honest, at first I did pick up really fast. I was moving along like much faster than the other kids, just
Mm,
because I've always been exposed to music, right?
yeah,
But I didn't like the idea of playing in a band, and I wanted to stand out. And I
yeah.
like doing solos, and they weren't giving me solos ever.
So
Um,
what was this more like orchestra?
it was orchestra.
Yeah.
When I say band, I mean orchestra.
Yeah.
So it was orchestra. I was playing with like 20 other saxophonists. I'm not gonna stand out with 20 other saxophonists, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I quit in high school.
Mm,
And then it wasn't until I went to college again, the school, they were like, you should perform for our Hmong New Year. You should perform for our Hmong New Year. And I was like, I don't know. I haven't played the saxophone in a couple years. And then I agreed to it anyways. I picked it up and then I blew it. And being a soloist, playing for the Hmong New Year, my first time, ever playing as a soloist saxophonist, right?
yeah.
Um, the crowd loved it. I played Nduno Tola, it's classic. I played Nduno Tola, and the crowd went wild. And that's when I started to know that yes, saxophone is a cool instrument. It's just really underrepresented, especially in the Hmong community. And ever since that day, I kept performing because I wanted to. Every time I performed on stage, I started feeling better about myself because I used to be someone with really low self-esteem. So the more
Mhm.
I played on stage, the more confident and the more I believed in myself. So I just fell in love with performing ever since.
So you played from sixth grade through through middle school, and then into high school. In orchestra band, is it, I don't know, like in symphonies they have like first, they have first violin, second
First
violin.
chair. Yep, first. I was always first chair.
Yeah. Um, cool. That's interesting. And did you take lessons at all outside of orchestra, or did you learn pretty much everything in orchestra?
I just learned everything in orchestra, and then it wasn't until really recently that I started taking private lessons.
Mm, yeah.
But yeah, so the chat right there. That's actually my best friend, Juyi, and he
Let's see.
actually, he and I
What was the
started.
G?
He and I started a band. He's like my best friend. He started a band together. He played guitar for me, and he's just always been there with me since the beginning. So I always appreciate it.
Um, my kids are learning music, but I don't think I would ever let them join like orchestra. I would much rather because I played so a little unknown fact about it, I played violin, but I didn't like it all in like an orchestra setting at all or like a symphony setting. Um, the learning is kind of slow.
It's really
But
slow because it's yeah, right. It's one teacher teaching like 60 kids. He
yeah,
can't teach everyone, you know.
so it's hard to get good fast. And I think the trick with music, and you're finding out now that you're learning lessons, that when you sit one on one, it's number one, it's more engaging, it's more intimate, and the teacher corrects your sloppy technique right away. I
Exactly.
think that's the most important part. Because when you play, so I used to live in Berkeley, and in downtown Berkeley, you would have these big, tall buildings, and I remember almost at least a couple of times a week, you walk downtown, and there'd be this big African American guy, and he would always play his bass saxophone, and it would reverb. There was natural reverb running through the whole entire downtown because the buildings it would just bounce off the walls, and it was just him playing, but he was like in a huge basically room, and you could hear it. And you know when you don't know how to express yet musically, it's a little frustrating because you don't know how to make it sound smooth, or you don't understand the slurs to make it interesting. And when I heard you play at Winter Jam, I heard like the little slurs, the little tricks that make music a lot more fun and interesting. And I don't know if you're not really encouraged to play that in orchestra, but if you're in like jazz band or if you're soloing, then you see that it's like absolutely not necessary.
Yeah. Um,
This is Nail, our previous guitar player. He actually played flamenco, and then also played jazz and played progressive metal, a little bit of everything. So he says good stuff. Would love to jam with his brother on some jazz standards. So he
yeah,
loves jazz.
for sure. You know what's funny? Like jazz is actually my weakest genre. I'm more of a pop and blues. But I'm learning my jazz standards actually now. So, I mean, much love to you, brother. Would love to jam with you. I mean, I'm from Minnesota, but you know, if I were to come down, I'm assuming you're from California. You know, I'm always open
He's
to
in the,
jam.
I think Nail lives in Oakland, Bay Area.
Oh, I'm always open to jamming with people and learning from them too.
Nice, nice. Well, let's do this. So let's take a look at your first video. The video actually has saxophone in it, and the video is Samoa Koilang, and it's a
Yeah.
really beautiful song adapted from a Chinese song.
Right.
A Hmong artist redid it, and then you played it. So let's show it. I should have done, Shashi. I cut it short because this program doesn't allow. It only allows me to in 720p. It only allows me to play like 3.5 minutes. But I actually should have shown like your introduction speech because it was such an interesting speech. Maybe I'm probably going to record it and send it to you so you can see what you said. But it was really touching how authentic you are about the way you play music. I couldn't show it tonight. I should have made another video just so that people could see. But let's watch your video, and we'll kind of go from there. Very nice. So I could not. So when I was watching you play, I could not even tell that you say you were nervous, but I couldn't even tell. You played so smooth, and your fingers. The way the way I say it in music is buttery. Your notes are so buttery, and yeah, you looked great out there. What are your thoughts on how you did?
Well, first of all, thank you for capturing such a video. It's really high quality, and I don't really have a lot of footage out there, so I really appreciate you capturing footage for me. First off, I don't know. I honestly, when I performed that song, I didn't really think I did that great. I was messing up on a few notes, here and there. I was still just getting the butterflies out in that one. That's why I told like 더 롱거 롱거 I'm not used to like such a huge stage.
Yeah,
I performed like a lot, but not at a stage that big before, and with that many audience members. So I
yeah,
think for sure, like after that song, I got like more comfortable and I started becoming more animated. If you didn't know,
yeah.
I get more animated and I start doing all these dance moves and tricks and whatever.
Nice. Annie says amazing and so talented. She actually asked a question too, so I'll just go right to her other
Come on, Sasha.
chat. You kind of mentioned this, but what you can answer Annie because obviously she didn't hear
Yeah,
the reply. When did you first learn how to play the
yeah.
saxophone? And
I'll
yeah,
I'll take a different approach to it. So I learned when I was 10 years old, but like actually learning it for real, I didn't start learning it until 3 years ago. I took private lessons with a professional saxophonist. I love my teacher. She's actually touring with Pitbull right now, but
mm,
I took lessons from her, and essentially she, like you said earlier, she helped me with my sloppy technique, like all those bad habits from years and years of just bad habits. She helped me fix those bad habits, and I was able to learn how to play more at a high level, because of her.
yeah, very good. Yeah, Annie says she just got here. Sorry, Annie, stay. Then if you just got here, you
Oh,
gotta stay with us.
always,
Uh,
always open to answer questions. I appreciate the question.
yeah,
The folks that are watching at home, please ask anything. I'll answer. I'll try my best to.
okay. Let's hear. Um, oh, I can't pull up Me's. Can you see Me's chat? It's a picture. You see it on the right. It's a fat rabbit or something or bear or something. You see that, Shashi?
Oh,
I
I'm
can't
kind of
pull it up.
blind. I don't think I see it yet.
Oh, you
Because
don't
I have
see
my
it. Okay.
iPad on the side here too. I'm watching the chat. I don't see it yet.
And I'm assuming you know Jason because he's trolling you. If I was a woman, I'd marry him. You know Jason.
Oh, I love Jason. I really he's from Minnesota too, and he's a phenomenal singer. And I do all these jam sessions with him too. I was a fan first before I met him, and we became pretty good friends.
Nice.
And me and Jason right now we're doing like a weight loss challenge actually. So me and Jason we're doing that too. So he's great. I love him. I would totally marry him, even if I was a guy. I'm still marry him. He's great.
So, I always give this offer, Shashi. I tell anyone that's here the benefit of coming onto Mongoose Live. I'll tell you is that I give the fans the opportunity not just to chat questions, but they can actually just come on and ask you in person. That's why it's so fun. The fellow community, sometimes it's crazy on the chat, but anybody that wants to come and ask Shashi a question in person, what you can do is you can actually just Facebook message me and I'll send you the link and then you can ask him in person. It's a lot more fun to ask Shashee in
Yeah.
person.
Oh, come on, join us like on camera here. I think it'd be fun. I don't
Okay.
bite.
Um, so Annie says, what got you started on wanting to learn how to play?
Yeah, so I come from a music family actually, and they kind of inspired me throughout my life to play. They were all singers, and I wanted to do something different. So I played saxophone.
Okay, good deal. Let's see here. Um, as a fellow musician to another one, I love gear talk. I like talking to musicians about gear
Yeah.
because a lot of people think that gear doesn't matter. No, it matters a lot. And just like Annie. I don't know much about saxophone. I just know there's some bass ones, there's some alto ones, they're the straight ones that that Kenny G plays on. Tell us about your saxophone. Your saxophone looks very different. I've never seen one that's black.
Yep.
Tell us
So
what we're looking at.
so this is actually so this is an alto saxophone.
Hmm.
And then it's a Yamaha brand, and then it's a custom Z. It's called the Black Phoenix, and it's
Hmm.
limited edition. So there's only 150 of these made. That's
Uh,
what makes my saxophone really special.
yeah.
And I love it a lot. This is my first professional saxophone. I just got it in September actually, and it's not the same. Like if you play like the student saxophone and you want to play to this, go play on that. You don't want to go play the student saxophones ever again.
What
So
would you say is the biggest difference? Because I don't know the difference, but as a player, what's different
yeah,
about like a higher end saxophone?
higher end saxophone, like the keyboard is smoother, so that's why when you mentioned buttery,
Yeah,
it's smoother.
it bounces back probably a little better.
Bounces back, and the interaction and the responsiveness is much better, so you can play notes much faster.
Mm,
Also, like the saxophone build, like it's easier to blow air into it. So there's that, and then it comes all the way from the mouthpiece. I think the mouthpiece is the biggest factor to anything.
mm.
And when we talk about
No,
gear, the mouthpiece matters a lot.
before we get too far, okay,
Yeah.
Sashi, do us a huge favor, us
So
dummies
I'm
who don't know.
sorry, I'm a nerd. I could talk about this all day, but go ahead.
Give us
Sorry.
something. Okay, so give us a walkthrough of what. Okay, so piece to piece, like a guitar has the neck, it's got the
Yeah.
nut, it's got the bridge. What? Give us a run through of what makes a saxophone a saxophone.
Yeah, for sure. I'll take it apart actually. So this is the
See, this is
mouthpiece.
why it's good to come here. You probably wouldn't get to see this otherwise.
So
So what's that called?
this is the mouthpiece.
Okay.
And this is a 24K plated mouthpiece, and
Mhm.
I don't think I'll ever play on any other mouthpiece ever again after this one. It makes blowing notes like I could hit the really high notes really easy.
What makes
Um,
it different from all the other mouthpieces, and what makes it so much better?
I think it's the so you see the inside here. So they
Hmm.
call it the chamber. The chamber is really open, so more air at a faster rate can go through the mouthpiece.
So you don't have to work so hard. Is that
I
fair
don't
to
have to work
say?
as hard, yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I
Great.
can play high notes on like other mouthpieces too, but this just makes it like easier. So if I'm playing long performances, I do this one. It helps me with endurance. And then you
And then do
probably
you
know.
have? Are there mouthpieces that because you're taking it apart? Then are there mouthpieces that are? I'm assuming there's interchangeable mouthpieces. Are there certain mouthpieces that you would use for certain other for certain other types of genres of music?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is like a really bright mouthpiece.
Mm,
It's playing bright mouthpieces are generally louder, and they sound more like it has that more like the high like 柠檬海哦是凶啊，可是凶
yeah,
pitch 啊。
yeah.
But there's also like so pop and rock is for this pop rock jazz, but there's
Mm,
also like classical mouthpieces, which I never
mm,
touched. There's also blues mouthpieces, and there's also like specifically just for like darker tones, darker music.
mm.
There's that too. And
And
then
like a good solid mouthpiece. What does it go for? Like one that's really good.
so mine right here, just this little piece of thing is $550.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So the little if the little mouthpiece is 500, then maybe
Yeah.
you'll tell us what the whole entire thing costs. Okay.
And then I forgot to mention, so this is a reed. So this is not a traditional reed. This is a plastic reed, synthetic reed, and I think synthetic reeds, it depends on the night. Synthetic reeds, I get a different sound from them, and I've been liking them ever since than the traditional, cane bamboo reeds. These are
What's the difference?
I think for sure for me it's the projection and the power. I feel like I can play really loud. Not that loud is good, but loud means that I can make myself stand out more. So that's why I play these. So yes.
So you're gonna have to excuse me because I'm so misinformed. what does the reed do? Where does the reed go? Because I figure it goes in the mouthpiece, but what is it?
Yeah, so you see this opening right here? You don't want to
Yeah.
blow through this. You won't get a sound through this. But
Okay.
the reed, it covers this, and so that
Oh, okay.
you can get a sound out of it. And what the reed does is that, so you see those like the smoothness. You have to like talk, no? Okay, you have to put your mouth
Mhm.
here, here, here to get certain notes out.
Oh, so it's not just your fingers; it's where you place your lips too.
I think your lips and your tongue matters way more than your fingers. You could just finger whatever,
Oh.
and it won't get a sound out because really it's your air through your diaphragm, and it's your reed how it vibrates.
So, so when you're playing and we hear vibrato, for those who know, vibrato is when the tone begins to shift a little. Is that coming from your voice, or are you doing something with the mouthpiece or the fingering?
It's actually my lips. So I
Oh,
would bite like this, right? And then to vibrato, I go. So I literally move my chin up and down. And at
oh,
first,
okay.
vibrato is really hard to learn because your mouth, once you don't have good control, like you might bite too hard and then no sound comes out, or you might not bite at all and yeah, no air gets in. So it's hard. It's really hard to
Interesting.
do.
So like basically like a singer has, I mean the way a singer creates vibrato, it's the vocal cords. So that's actually your vocal cords for the saxophone, then more or less the mouthpiece
Yeah,
and the reed. Making
exactly,
sense.
exactly.
Okay, tell us more. Tell us more. I'm really interested now about tell us more
Um,
about the saxophone.
so you notice this neck? This neck is actually silver, and my saxophone is black.
Hmm.
So I have a like a black neck too, but
Hmm.
I switched to silver because, of course, the silver plating makes a difference too,
Uh-huh.
and it affects the pitch of it. Um, and this neck actually is pretty open. So, like I said, open means the air flows through, like more air flows into it. So you're able to play certain notes more emphasized. And
Interesting.
then we get to the sax itself. Um, I don't want to say the price because I might get robbed.
Okay, that's so the
But essentially, let's just say this is worth more than my car.
Wow. So
Um,
you are a serious player. All right, man. So that's like something that I know you have insured probably then.
yes.
Okay. Okay. If you don't, you should. Okay. Very nice. And then okay, so I'm just gonna ask you because otherwise I probably won't ever run into a saxophonist again and have the time to ask him. What are we seeing with the fingerings? Like if I was to if I said, hey Shashi, show me how the saxophone works. Tell me about the fingering. What are you doing?
Okay, so
It,
my left hand, so
mhm,
it's kind of like recorder actually. So
mhm,
B A G, right? B A G,
mhm,
and then if you want to go to like F, F right here, E D, Gilino. But if you want to
mhm.
play sharps now, it's like these side keys over here.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So when you push that key, it turns into a sharp.
um, only some notes. And
Okay,
then
interesting.
I'm not really good at explaining it, but essentially there's like a each piece on here essentially has a purpose.
Oh,
And you could play like the same note like five different ways.
huh, interesting. So I guess it'd be kind of like guitar. You can play. There's on any given guitar neck. There's probably a couple of five or four, four, five, six ways of playing the same note. Cool.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for that tour. I appreciate that. Now I know a little bit more about what you're doing, because you see the hand moving, but you don't know quite how you're doing it, and then also you don't know how you're getting it done. Let's look at some comments.
For sure.
Sky Lee says, "When will you and your dad perform together on stage?" Tell us about your dad first.
Yeah,
Tell us because
for sure.
now she obviously knows who your dad is. So who's your
Yeah.
dad?
So, hi, Sky. First of all, Sky is actually a really good friend of mine, and she helps me with photography and videography.
Mhm.
So, thank you for being here tonight, Sky. Really appreciate you. And then, who is my dad? So, my dad isn't really famous, but he's a famous songwriter, let's say.
Oh,
So, my dad, his name is Tu Tian Ya or Tu Chan Yang. So, Tu
mm,
Tian Ya. He was a singer in the 90s, early 90s. I think I think after no more Google, you know, Long Pengzi,
You took it out of him. Oh boy. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then he transferred those skills to me actually. But he wrote songs for his younger brother, which is Suya. Suya is the singer of Ijonzi, if you know, you guys
Mm,
know that song.
yep.
So he really just wanted to promote his younger brother. So he wrote all my Uncle Su's songs. Um,
Oh, interesting. What
mhm.
a nice guy. Okay. Well, do
Well,
you ever see yourself? Do you ever
to
see
be
yourself
honest,
playing with him on stage?
he's getting kind of old. Nulalanje, he's gone deaf. So he
Oh,
can't
really?
really like he kind of sings out of key sometimes. He's still a really good
Oh.
singer, but
Mhm.
I think he can only sing his songs. But he's a really good singer nonetheless. I don't have any. He's
Yeah.
actually really talented still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little unknown fact about me. When we used to play Paradise, I used to have because I played stage to the audience, their right, but for us it'd be stage left, and we used to play with huge monitors on our on the side. The side fields would come in, and as a keyboard, you sit on the edges. And to this day, my left ear does not hear nearly as well as my right because that thing would blow in my ear, and I would
Wow.
some nights I would leave and my ear would be ringing. It
Ringing.
would be
Yeah.
awful. So
Um,
when you tell about you when you tell
I'm
me
already
about
getting the ringing too, so I'm already getting the ringing too. So that's why when I get the ringing, I stop playing for a while because
yeah,
I don't want to have damaged ears, and I wear
yeah,
ear
you could
protection.
yeah, the other thing is you could put like a little earpieces in, or you could use like in-ear monitors. So when you play Nichindon, you can control your volumes, and that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd be sad if my hearing ever went completely away. Well, I would get hearing aids first, but I would be so sad, because as a musician, you can only play as good as you can hear.
And to fully answer, I would want to play with him someday, actually.
Mm.
And he's actually writing songs for me right now.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Annie says she had to Google the clarinet family to get the saxophone. Um, and so V has a good question. He
Oh, I
says,
love
"What
DJ.
advice?"
I love DJ. I respect him so much. I
Who is V?
so his name is DJ VX.
Uh-huh.
He's a DJ in Minnesota here.
Mhm.
He plays at a lot of gigs, actually,
Mm.
and he always just supports Hmong artists, and he specifically plays like Hmong music. You know, even when
Mm.
he's playing for Mika crowds, he plays Hmong music, and he's just
Oh,
so much
cool.
love. Every time I see him, he's warm, and he's
Mm.
such a great person to be around. And I'm a big fan of him. He's a big fan of me.
Okay, so he says, "What advice do you have to give to young musicians who are interested in the sax? What's the difference in learning and playing versus other instruments?"
Um, the saxophone is the hardest instrument I think ever. Just woodwinds and brass instruments like are just a different feel because you have so many factors that play in. It's the air support, the lungs, how you shape your mouth, um,
Mm.
how you bite the mouthpiece, how your lower lip moves,
Yeah,
and that's just the minimum just to get a sound out.
yeah,
But there's still finger work. You have to go like you have to play like a lot to get like smooth finger.
yeah.
Um, I say my biggest advice for individuals learning of the sax, I would say just try to blow every day for 30 minutes. And
Yeah.
you'll start to see like you're improving because at first like your lungs are still getting used to it. But once your lungs get really adapted to blowing the sax every day, like you'll start to know a difference. So I would just say practice, practice, practice. I practice actually 2 hours a day.
Oh,
So
that's a
I would.
lot. That's a lot. That's a
Mhm.
lot of practice for, especially for someone in a doctorate program. Cool. Yeah, because with guitar, the hardest part as a kid, the reason why I can't get my kids to play guitar is because it hurts too much, the fingers, because it takes a time to build the callus. Um, I figure it must be um, discouraging for kids to play saxophone if they can't get the right breathing, or I can imagine where they're told play this phrase, but if your lungs can't blow well enough, then you can't finish the phrase. Interesting. I never thought of it. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
That's why like when you start, you don't start with like gold mouthpiece. You start with like a plastic mouthpiece, and it's
Mm.
easier to blow into. Hmm.
Annie asked the question: have you ever played in a
I
jazz
appreciate
club or with a group?
more like Annie. Ask questions. I really am open to answering anything, everything, anything.
Yeah.
Um, but see, okay, I'm gonna take another approach to this question too. I am really self-centered, so I like being the guy that gets all the attention, the solos. So I played with groups before. I just tend not to like it because, for one, I mean, I could play with a group. I played with groups before, such as like Destiny Band. But I just like playing solos more because I want to play, fully express myself. When I'm with a band, I can only express this much of myself. When I'm playing by myself, I could express all of myself.
Interesting. 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 Um, um, so you've never spent a lot of time with a band, then, basically, more or less.
Other than
When
in
you,
school, no.
yeah. So playing seriously, once you started in college, you didn't really play in a band. You just kind of did solo pieces, more or
Solo
less.
pieces, and then recently I'm like playing a lot more of the local musicians here now, like the Hmong musicians here. Like we do jam sessions a lot actually. So like Jason, of course, is one of them that we just come together and just play music together. I like that vibe. To play in a band, I don't see myself doing that long term.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard to get
Interesting.
it's hard to get your bandmates together too to practice.
Yeah.
And my schedule is really chaotic, so I can only practice like really, really late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's really interesting because, so from my perspective, as a person in a band, and it's different because I can't speak to as to what it's like to be a saxophonist, but at least when I was, so my history of music is this, Shashi. I played with Paradise, but when I came into Paradise, I couldn't play squat. Pretty much everything I learned from Paradise, and playing in a band, it actually really, really accelerated my learning. Um, in certain good ways and bad ways too, I guess you could say, because I didn't learn like the rudiments, the basics. I just went and learned the necessities. Um, but playing in a band really taught me how to, because there's certain things like, a lot of musicians talk about the pocket, drummers especially and bass players. They talk about the pocket, and it's when, um, I guess you could do it in solo pieces too, but it's when the music is played. Technically, you could argue that it's played imperfectly, but when like six people play music imperfectly, perfectly, and it sounds really good, it's the pocket.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
guess you could play a track too, but it's really interesting when you play it in a live setting and everyone plays in that pocket.
Yes.
Um,
Um,
interesting.
okay, I take that back. I would like to play in a band, live bands actually. I prefer to play
Mm,
live bands.
mm.
Dishi, I'm the main soloist. I have to be the main. Um,
Interesting. Okay, let's see here. So Lang says very interesting.
yeah,
Yes, it is very interesting. You're a very interesting musician.
much love, Link.
Um, so Annie's going to provide us the segue into your next song. Annie says, I know you don't, you said you don't do classical, but would you be willing to learn to play Careless Whisper by George Michael?
Everyone
So
asks that, and that's why I play it all the time because everyone loves that song.
yeah,
Everyone knows it too.
so for those who went to Winter Jam, your second song was actually Careless Whisper. So he plays this song exactly. Um, and I didn't show the clip, but you kind of learned about the chaotic nature of live performances. I didn't put it in here because it was too long. But if you remember the first part of the song,
I cut out.
it played and then it
It
died.
started from the beginning again. Yeah.
Yeah, start from the beginning. This video shows the from the restart, but you kind of saw on stage, okay, it gets crazy a little bit, things go wrong. But
Yeah,
I thought you handled it really well. You're just like, okay,
well,
this
I was
started
like,
working.
okay, I get to play the song again. More stage presence, more stage time. I just thought I looked at it positively there.
Very good. So this is you playing "Careless Whisper" by none other than George Michael. Very nice, very nice. So yeah, so passionate, so much passion, especially the end. Got on his knee, got on your knees, and played it. Very nice. Kelly says hi.
Hi,
Let's
Kelly.
see here. Chris Chase. Chris is from Seattle. He says hi also.
No, no.
Um, Annie says, "Well, I wasn't there. That's why." I suspect Annie's from North Carolina. So Annie says, "Come to NC if you don't mind. Play a little." So she's saying, "Okay, Shashi, can you give us a piece a little bit now?"
Oh, why not? Oh no, oh no. Something like that.
Very nice. There you go, Annie. It's the real deal. V says amazing. Annie says, "Thank you for showing that clip along. My one almost 2-year-old really enjoyed that. He loves music. See, you're inspiring people."
Oh, that's cute. I mean, yeah, I that's the plan. Hopefully I will spark the next Kenny G. I'm not gonna be the next Kenny G, but I'll spark the next Kenny G.
The 北蒙其实德里个说到 Pacholing chua saxophone. How many saxophonists have you met? Five.
Uh,
Oh, one just went down. Okay.
Lolling.
Rolling, huh?
Uh,
Cool. And where are they from?
so there's actually one in Fresno. I think he's a lot better than me. He doesn't do live performances as much, but he actually studies like saxophone composition. So
Oh,
he's pretty
interesting.
good. His name is Brent Lee.
Hmm.
Um, from Fresno. And then there's one of my good friends, Mitchell Fang. I wrote about him. He's technically my friendly rival that motivated me to play more seriously. He doesn't really play much anymore, but he was my saxophone partner for a long time. Mitchell
Hmm.
Fang, really good. Um, and then a lot of older guys. I forget their names, but like older guys. There were ones that came before me, but you know, they're they're older.
Um, I imagine it must be, I guess for saxophone, I can imagine it could be frustrating. Um, because the nature of the instrument, it's a solo instrument. In my opinion, it's a solo instrument. Yeah, you could play like I guess I don't know, a quartet, a
Yeah.
wind quartet or something, like in a like I've seen them in like a certain music genres, around here there's a lot of like South American type of fusion bands that'll use a saxophone. um, but I imagine it would be frustrating because you can't quite play by yourself. Like you would need accompaniment, or
Mhm.
you would need music. And I can see maybe that being frustrating for saxophonists too, because you would need a certain setup to be able to really express,
Yeah.
unless you were just like the African American guy who just went downtown and played using the reverb of all the buildings. Interesting. What are your thoughts? I mean, why do you think Brent doesn't like to play live? I mean, but he studies. You can't obviously speak for him, but what do you think? What are your thoughts on why some more? I guess saxophones are more not are not more prominent in the Hmong community.
I can't speak for him at all, actually. But
Hmm.
from my perspective, I feel like singers do get more of the attention,
Hmm.
and they get promoted more heavily. That's why I want to transition into singing and playing saxophone too.
Hmm.
Um, but
Oh, yeah.
but it's not really as promoted because not a lot of people can play because it takes time. I played
Yeah.
for like 15 years and I'm only this good, and it's really
Hmm.
hard. It's really hard, and it's a really hard instrument. And I kind of blame the school system. The school system kind of makes it hard to learn too. So if you're I come from a family of privilege too, and I acknowledge that.
Hmm.
So if I didn't have my dad's support, giving me all these lessons, I wouldn't be the player I am today. So if you just learn at school, it's gonna be tougher, much tougher. That's why because if you learn at school, then it's a lot harder, and they make it really boring too.
So that would be that. So I guess V asked that earlier. What advice would you give? you you would along the lines you would say you could play at school, but at least have some private lessons if you want to
At
get
least,
really good.
at least. And that's why I'm starting to. I want to eventually teach the youth how to play saxophone, and I would do that for free because it's
Hmm.
not accessible. I wouldn't charge people. I would just want to teach because I want to pass on, and hopefully inspire someone to rise above me, and that's the plan.
Nice. That's a good vision. I like that vision. I don't think have you shared that with anyone before?
Uh, Only a few people.
Well, now you have. Okay, so I hope I wish you the best. I hope you you mentor some Hmong or even non-Hmong people to play saxophone, because it's so you know like you know it's the issue of being coming from a relatively now still um, uh, underprivileged, or like more or less unexposed, uneducated community. You don't really aspire to be a saxophonist until you see a Hmong saxophonist that's really good. And to say that maybe maybe one person finds his own self endeavor to do it, but for the most part, it significantly changes who wants to play based on who you see. One like you, Shashi. I think I'm assuming there's a slurry of young people that are seeing you play live and saying, "Wow, that's freaking amazing." When I grow up, I want to be stinking that good too.
But I want them to be better.
Yeah,
Because
I agree.
I'm not that good, to be
I
honest, if you
agree.
want.
Well, no, you're from my point of view, you're extremely good, extremely good. Um, let's see here. Jamong Ya says, "What's your favorite piece song to play? How long does it usually take for you to master a song?"
So Jamal's actually my first cousin, so I appreciate you for
Mm.
being on. Actually, I invited a lot of folks, actually.
Mhm.
And then my favorite piece to play, it's a lot, but I mean, I've been playing around a lot. I would say for sure, Careless Whisper is one of them because it always enacts a reaction,
Mm.
and I think it's one of the best saxophone solos of all time. And then there's also the moment I really like playing the Gulapeng by Yaka. That one's also a really fun one to play. Um,
Yeah.
and then I always cover my uncle's song too, like Sounders, all the Sounders songs. I love to play them.
Mm.
And then how long? If I really put my mind to it, maybe an hour. Fun fact,
Mm.
I actually learned all three of those songs the night before because I just switched my songs up.
Mhm. Nice.
And I do a lot of improvising, so
Yeah.
I improvise. It doesn't look like I'm improvising, but I am improvising a lot. And I feed off the crowd's energy. If the crowd is feeding me love, I show it back and I start playing all these crazy solos that I didn't even know I can play because I feed off their energy.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Um, I always so in the band, um, I always envied our drummer because our drummer. Some people have a really nice knack for music. In the case of Paradise, our drummer, I knew he never practiced. That guy never practiced. Hajj rarely practiced, but it's interesting because when he would play the beat exactly, and he would just listen to it. But he would play the beat perfectly, and he would know where it would roll. Like just by listening, basically, some people have the ability to just quickly learn it. Whereas me, with the parts, I would just sit there and I would have to work at it. But there's certain people that are just musically gifted and can learn like 3 songs in one night the night before. So
I'm not gifted, I would say, but it's a lot. It comes from just a lot of. I feel like learning music theory helps a lot with
yeah,
constructing things. Hmm.
yeah. Um, Rodney says hi.
Hey, what's up, Rod? This is my cousin too. See, I don't have fans. I just have my family come and family and close friends like me. I these are all people. See, I say I don't have fans, but I have such strong support from family, friends, and everybody I come across. So I always appreciate the love. Um,
Yeah.
Me, I went to college with her.
Mhm.
She's great. Um, and then my proudest accomplishment right now will probably be just. I've answered this question before actually, but because cuối tuần này like bình時就chơi này bình時就chơi thế cuối tuần này rất là mô hình á. So
Mhm.
really shy, very unconfident, right? And then I learned, I perform on stage, and it helped me overcome my anxiety, actually. So I
Mm.
used to have really bad anxiety where it would be so hard for me to even make friends and talk to people because I was so anxious all the time,
Oh,
and nervous and just shy and awkward. But performing on stage really gave me a platform of voice, and it helped me overcome my anxiety. So I would say, or not overcome, but manage it better. And I'd say that would be my proudest accomplishment right now is managing, learning techniques, ways to manage my anxiety.
I'll put you on the spot. You get your side D, right?
Yeah.
And then if you could choose one, Side D, only if you could only choose one, would you pick your side D or would you pick saxophone?
If I got paid as much as a side D playing saxophone, I would choose saxophone.
Okay. Okay.
Definitely.
Wow.
But music doesn't always pay the bills, and you probably know this.
Oh, I know that. That's why this is
Yeah,
on a
hobby,
Friday night.
hobby.
Yeah, it's a hobby. I think
Yeah,
no, I think that if we were like I tell a lot of the artists here, if we were like South Korean or Chinese, then
yeah,
we wouldn't have to. The music would do it, but because I think there's a lot of talent in our community. It's just that we're a small community. That's the issue.
right, right. Smaller communities, so it's harder to get, the volume, the stage volumes that like BTS brings in, for
Yeah,
sure. It's gonna be a little longer before we can like be like BTS.
yeah. Okay, Lizzie says hi.
Hello,
Okay,
hello.
Mr. Saxophonist. Okay, um, Rodney, what was your inspiration though?
My inspiration, and you probably know this, Rod, but essentially, I grew up around musicians, and I didn't mention him, but my uncle Momeng Yang, he was a really amazing singer, guitar player, musician. He was so good. He actually almost went mainstream in because he got signed. He almost got signed by Sony Records.
Mm,
He was such a because like so he like had all. He was so popular. He was so good, and he was so talented, and he got a record deal, and then it fell short. Because Hachine, I think this, but maybe he can speak to it someday. But ever since my grandpa died, so his dad,
mm,
he stopped playing music. He stopped playing, and I think he's really heartbroken. And he really loved it when my grandpa would just listen to him. And
mm.
he's always my biggest inspiration because I always wanted to be like my uncle Momeng. My uncle Momeng is my biggest inspiration.
Yeah. Music is tough. At one point, Paradise actually got an offer to sign to Sony, the Asian part of Sony, um, and I'll give you my perspective on that. I can't speak to your uncle, but we ended up not doing it because it's essentially a loan. It's a huge loan to create an album, and
And
it
you'll give
changes
him
your
back
life.
eventually. Yeah,
If you take that loan and you get that record, it changes your life because now you have to tour and then you have to really make that money back actively, and it's hard. And then when in life, when someone important dies in your life, I guess your priorities change. Let's say that. Like some people stop wanting to follow their non essential dreams, I guess you could say. Like it's not that music isn't important, but it's that oh, he's right there. Is that Mua Meng? Yeah, maybe that's him.
that's my uncle.
um,
He's great. He's the best. He's my hero. He's my hero.
yeah.
Um, and he he's a great singer, but he's got a I think, and honestly, he has like a better life now because he has a wife
Yeah,
and two lovely kids, and he's happy and he's living the dream, and I'm happy for him.
I agree, I completely agree. Like what makes you happy in your I don't know exactly what happened, but what makes you happy when you're young, when something traumatic happens and you have to you reevaluate your life, you may find that it's not as important as other things.
Yeah, to be honest, music isn't everything. Family. Yeah,
No, I agree. Chris says, "Are you related to Sang Yang and Sak?" He asked that question to everybody. Sang Yang and Sak.
probably.
Probably. Wouldn't be
被蒙
surprised.
聽先嚟哦，
Yeah.
被蒙
Oh, so
聽
so Rodney tagged Mo Ming, and Mo
Yeah,
Ming's here.
for
And
sure.
Rodney says, "I love Paradise." Okay.
Yeah, he's a really big fan of you guys. Like a lot of my family really loves Paradise,
Oh,
and there
that's
he
nice.
is. Um,
Okay, yeah, there is. He is. How old is Mo Ming?
I think he's like early 30s. I don't remember too
Oh,
much.
so he's young. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
All right. Well, you've kind of mentioned it. So the third song that you played at Winter Jam was Luparo by Sounders.
Yeah.
It's a really energetic song. It's one of the songs that made him popular.
Yeah.
Because their vibe at that time, if you follow Sounders and you're aware of what Sounders was or is they weren't the Sounders that they are now. Because now they're kind of like this rock, bluesy, Thai rock type of band. But at that time, they were definitely
Like
it was
more
like
distant,
80s,
right?
90s
This.
pop.
Yeah, yeah,
And so
exactly.
that's what Lupa Rose was, and that's what made him really popular. And so, why'd you pick the song?
I really wanted to commemorate not only my Uncle B, but Sounders. So
Yeah,
Thai, you know, like some of the classic guys that like
yeah,
started Sounders into,
yeah.
because Sounders for sure is a music like not only an inspiration to me, but many of the musicians that you
Oh
see
yeah, a
playing.
lot of us. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of us love
So
sounds.
I really wanted to commemorate and honor my Uncle B specifically because he really inspired me at a really young age. It was like, if my uncle B can do it, if my uncle Momain can do it, why can't I do it? And that's why I'm here
Yeah.
today.
Nice, nice. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look. This is Lupa Rose from Sounders. This was when they were still very much keyboard heavy, and that's how this the feeling. That's what makes this song so different of all their songs. And it's an absolutely beautiful song. The original singer was Tom Herr,
I
and then
never
later,
met Tom, but I'm sure. Yeah, no, he's good. He's really good.
yeah. So let's take a listen. Okay, so I cut short because, but that's not the end. You actually do something more at the end, but I had to cut it short because
Yeah.
I was only allowed 300 megabytes. But that was awesome. That was so awesome.
If you've noticed, that was all improvisation. I only played the
Yeah,
melodies. I just improvised the
yeah,
whole thing.
yeah. I didn't realize it until I was listening. I was like, so basically, you play the main riff of the chorus, and then I was like, oh, I was just as I was picking it apart now, I was like, oh, then you basically improvise through the whole entire song, other than
Yeah,
that riff and then a couple of other pieces. So I thought that was really, really
yeah,
cool.
I'd say that's my real musical talent is my ability to adapt, and I have really good ears, so I can hear essentially what note, and I can tell that note. Okay, if it's that note, then I have to play these certain notes. If I don't play these notes, then it doesn't sound good. So I know all my scales, all my yeah. So it's essentially it's just basic music theory.
Um, have you dabbled into like a bass sax? And how different is that?
So bass, so I played a baritone sax. So baritone is the step, like it's still like a really big, hefty saxophone.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I guess baritone is technically the bass actually, saxophone.
Mhm.
So baritone sax, I played it in high school actually,
Mhm.
and it's definitely not a solo instrument at all. It's more so used for orchestra, but you can apply it and play like some pretty cool things with it too. So I want to buy one day, but it takes a lot of air. So I wouldn't be able to play. I would have to get used to how it works first again. But
Yeah.
essentially, it's a lot of air. It's more air. The bigger it is, the more air you have to blow through it.
So for the baritone, obviously plays lower notes. Can it also play as high, or is it just cut off like maybe an octave lower?
What I love about saxophone is that it's it's a really technical instrument. So just the way you shape your mouth, you can get like just as high as notes as this saxophone out of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Huh. Um, that saxophone, it's an alto. I see you carrying it around like it's nothing, but how much does that actually weigh?
I don't know. I think it's like 3 to 5 pounds at
Oh,
least.
so it's not too heavy. It's 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. Because like a guitar is anywhere from like 7 to 10 to 11 if it's really heavy.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
not as
it's not
heavy
like.
as it's not as heavy as a guitar, that's for sure. But
Oh, okay.
for sure it's pretty heavy. And yeah, it's I still carry it around because I've had experiences. That's why I always carry it around. I've had experiences when I'm performing, right? And I set it down, and then someone knocks it over, and then these things are
Oh
really
boy.
fragile. So you it bends the key, and I can't play it anymore. So
Wow.
that's why that's the real reason why I always carry it with me.
So let's say, I mean, guitar shops are hard enough to find. I imagine like a saxophone repair shop must be a pain in the butt.
It's a pain in the butt. There's only two like saxophone shops in Minnesota, St. Paul, Twin Cities area.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I never thought of that. Like, so if you're on stage, how easily does that reed break? Does it ever? Can it snap when you're playing?
Uh, Not the plastic ones.
Okay.
And I've never had an experience where my reed broke before. Um, but it can break if you're just like putting it on the mouthpiece before you play. You could like easily just snap it. And if you just snap it a little bit, like just a little tear, like it can't play anymore. Which is these things are really fragile for sure. The mouth. That's why I like the plastic ones because they're more sturdy,
Hmm.
more durable.
So let's play devil's advocate. I'm just curious. This is just us going back to gear. Why would you pick like a bamboo over? Your preference is that the synthetic plastic one, but why would you pick a bamboo one over like a
Oh,
synthetic?
sure. So I prefer the bamboo cane reeds actually,
Uh,
um, because they have a warmer sound. Like a warmer sound is
I
like
see.
it sounds more natural and like how like a real saxophone should sound. Like the synthetic reed is really it sounds a little bit more unnatural. It still sounds natural, but it's a little bit not as warm as a cane
Oh,
reed.
interesting. Yeah, I learned so much tonight. Thank you for coming. I think tonight's a little bit different. Every time an artist comes, Shashi, they bring a different personality, and and they it makes me engage them differently. If they're a musician, then I'm more inclined to ask them musician inclined um, questions, like their gear, especially because I've never had a chance to actually just intimately sit with a saxophonist and probe the artist's thought about instrumentation. And I want to thank you for joining me tonight and spilling it all about all the anatomy of a saxophone and whatnot. And I know that it's Friday night. You're a single guy. He's a single guy. If you don't know, are you seeing anyone, or are you purely single right now?
I'm still single. I
Okay, so
mean,
see all the girls. He's single,
yeah,
man. If you want to date
and
a saxophonist,
I do like, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. I plead the fifth there. Single.
okay, good deal. We'll see. It's a Friday night, and you made yourself open to be here with me tonight, and so I appreciate it. In terms of what's going on, what kind of projects are you working on now? Are there
Yeah,
is there are there pieces that we can expect to come out from you, or because I know that you come on every once in a while, you come live on Facebook too.
yeah, and yeah, those live sessions are just me practicing, actually.
Mhm.
So that's why it's like imperfect. Like back to what you said earlier, the imperfection of like performing is what makes music performing more perfect, because if
Yeah,
you just play like if you just want a perfect sound, just play the CD. Like you don't need a live performer to play it. But
yeah,
essentially, imperfection is great. I love
yeah. I
imperfection.
agree. I agree.
And then new pieces. So I already announced this like unofficially, I guess, but me and Treasure we plan to write a song and
Oh,
have
cool.
it done by the end of this year, actually.
Nice. Um, so I won't leave it at that. Tell us about what's the vibe of the song. You have to tell. You don't have to throw us anything on the saxophone, but what's the feel? How would you if you were to describe the feel of the song? Is it kind of like acoustic? Because usually Treasure does more like a popish.
Yeah.
How would you describe the song that you're doing with Treasure?
Yeah, the vibe, we don't have like a finalized version, but like not even we don't even have like okay, we don't have a lot done. I can't say that we're doing it because yet, but like we plan to get it done by the end of this year. But the vibe we want it to be like more like pop, upbeat. I would say pop and upbeat. That's all I can say. We do have themes in it already, but I don't want to spoil it yet, just yet. Um,
Okay, cool. So Chris asked a question, but that's pretty much what we're talking about now. Okay, so if anyone's out there, I think a lot of the audience knows you already, but if anyone's out here, whether you're watching a restream or you're watching live, again, Shashi has a Facebook site. In addition to his personal site, you can. It's called Simply Shashi,
Simply
and
Shashee.
by Monte Shashi, and
Wow.
so join him, follow him. He's got great stuff coming. Shashi, I wish you the best. Whatever you do, don't stop playing because there's only four saxophonists from that are very active or relatively active from what you know. I'm sure there's more, but they're kind of in hiding a little bit.
Yeah.
I wish we had more that would come forward. There's
Right.
so many gifted musicians in the Hmong community, but the problem, part of the problem, Shashi, is that they don't know what to do with it, or there may not be the platform. And
Exactly. Exactly.
and I think the fact that you're playing on stage, the other person is uh, Jimua from Fresno, but he plays the Chinese
Yeah.
flute. I can't remember the name of it, but there's
Lucy,
more
right?
people. Yeah, a Halusi. Yeah, there's more people coming out. Like I know in the Twin Cities, you have Hillary. Hillary plays Halusi
Yeah. Lily's
and a
great.
whole lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, thank you for coming out. Anything in particular you want to say to the viewers or the people that may watch the replay?
Um, I think for sure, like, be on the lookout. Answering Chris's question, I do plan to post more. Um, yeah, just be on the lookout for Hmong covers. Okay, that's all I can say because I'm in the process of recording all these Hmong covers of
Nice.
all these musicians I admire. And then much love. Thank you for the support, giving me a chance. With the name, I would say just an average musician, but I really appreciate the love that I've received so far. And thank you to family for continuously supporting me and friends as well.
Well, what's interesting is before we end it off, you think you're an average musician. I don't think you're an average musician. As you know, you start as an average musician and then you become an above average musician and you become a very good musician. And so I encourage you to keep on playing. And from what I hear already, I think you're well above average musician, such that you play on stage and people love the sound that you create, the vibe that you create. And like in music, there's a spectrum of musicians that we keep on hearing about. There's musicians that want to play music exactly the way it's written, like they want to play to the T. And there's people that just want to solo and fool around and be and improv a little bit.
Me,
I think you're definitely more on the improv side. And so, but everything falls in the middle, and there's a benefit and a place for everyone. Um, Sashi, thank you again. It's a
thank you,
pleasure. Thank you all the watchers who were here.
thank you so much.
Okay, guys, have a great night and
I,
Oh, for those who don't know, Monday I have Jeeker here, and then on Wednesday I
Good.
have
Oh, love the guy. Love the guy. I'll definitely be there,
super
commenting and
talented.
starting everything.
Okay, guys, Shinji